If you're a One Piece fan, and even if you're not, you want to stay till the end of this episode because on episode 119, I will show you how you can meet all the Mugiwaras. Let's go!
Alright everybody, let me tell you a bit about how to get to see the One Piece statues, my trip, basically how I did it, and probably, share my story, but also take you there, basically. And then feel free to, take and basically use whatever I'm sharing on this episode to hopefully make your visit to the One Piece statues in Kumamoto, Japan, a fantastic experience and trip. So before we get into it and I tell you the intricacies and everything, I have to tell you a few things. Oh, as you can see, I am a big One Piece fan. So if you have not watched One Piece, I would say give it a chance, even if it is in the anime, in the manga, in the live action. I am not a big live action fan, but actually One Piece the live action is not, it's quite good. A lot of people like it. So that could save you a few episodes. And if none of that works, there is a new anime coming up that it's going to be like the main story, just like basically keeping the most important things so you can save a bit of time. Because a lot of people say, oh, it's 1,000 episodes, it's too long, but trust me, it's extremely good. But just to encourage you to check out the show. If you're a One Piece fan, amazing, just get ready because I'll be showing you every single statue, how to get there, and basically everything that I did. So big shout out to one of my students who actually visited there and gave me a few tips. And I guess the tip number one is that it is ideal to have a car when you go and see them. It is not like you must have a car, but because this is in, I'm not gonna say the countryside, but this is in a small city. By the way, let's just go back one step. All the One Piece statues are located in Kumamoto City. Kumamoto is a city that is in Kyushu area. Kyushu is like the bottom part of the main island in Japan. So usually people go to, Tokyo, Tokyo, Osaka area. That's the most common places people go. Then you have Osaka, you keep going west, you get to Hiroshima, you keep going west, it's very, very west, and then you get to Fukuoka. And then probably from Fukuoka, you start going a bit down, and that's when you get to Kumamoto. So to get to Kumamoto, it will take a few hours on the bullet train. So you have to, check out the map and organize how you get to Kumamoto. I just took a train from... I was in Fukuoka already, so that wasn't too bad. It was maybe like about an hour on the local train. So I got to Kumamoto by train. And by the way, the Japanese, they are marketing geniuses. They know that people, that they know how to, let's say, deal with their tourists. Because as soon as you arrive in Kumamoto station, you see like 2 walls with lots of drawings and things about the statues. So I just landed, I was excited, and as soon as I see that, oh my god, so pumped, so happy. But yeah, the thing is that all the statues, there are 10 by the way, one for each of the members of the Straw Hat crew in One Piece. And one thing to note is that they are not all in the main city area. This is the first tip, that if you are thinking like me, like, oh, I'm going to see all the statues in one day, that is really hard, because what they have done is, imagine like the frame of the video shot is where all the statues are. It's not like you have all of them in one area, it's more like you have 1 and 2 in one side, you then have to go a little bit up to see another one, and then you do another drive or 1 or 2 more down here, then you go at the bottom on each side and you've got some more, and then in the middle there is another statue. So there is a lot of driving, which is a tip that I was told by a student. Again, big thank you, which was get a car, or maybe, pay a taxi, basically get a driver, something, talk to someone from the area. I would say the nicest thing to do would be probably to just go driving yourself, because it is a big experience. in the sense that you're maybe doing something new, because probably, I'm just guessing, right? But most tourists that go to Japan, maybe they don't experience renting a car and all that. Especially like if you're listening and you live in Australia, probably it's not gonna be that hard, because it is driving on the same side. For anyone listening from South America, that's a bit of a different story, because then it's like even more exciting because you're driving on the other side of the road. But then again, if you're listening to the podcast, you probably have got a lot of experience driving like we do in Australia, so that should be all right. But nevertheless, it's still good to mention that renting a car, it's probably the way to go. And I drove a total of, drumroll please, I drove about 300 kilometers, which is not, it is a fair amount. And the thing is that this is a small city, so it was a little bit far away, each statue, I should say. And my strategy was to go to a statue that was already far away, and then around that part, head to other ones to try and be efficient with time. Let me, again, tell you what I did. I got to the station in the morning, and then my car rental, I think, started at 10 a.m., which, looking back, it's maybe a rookie mistake. Get your car rental or rent a car probably the earlier the better. So I think I could have been able to get mine at 9 a.m. Doesn't sound like a lot, but again, every hour counts, and you will see why in just a minute. So what I did is I went to the Frankie statue, because that was one of the furthest ones. It probably was about an hour and 20 minutes away. And then after Frankie, I went to see Usopp, and after Usopp, it was Nami. After Nami, the plan was going to see Robin. And there was a problem that I was driving there and I couldn't enter the area of Robin's statue, which was already a problem, So I would say always check if there are any events, or you have to do a bit of homework to check if you can get to see all of them. That would be probably like the worst thing in the world. To be honest, while I was driving, a part of me was like, look, if I don't see Robin, it's okay. Because imagine, you have to drive 1 hour away of the city, and then you have to come back, and then, there are other ones. Probably the challenge, I think, is like you're basically racing the sun, because as soon it gets dark, then you cannot see most of them, because they're usually in like public places, so it's a bit tricky when it comes to like seeing all of them in a day. That's what makes it really hard. I think the other problem is that every time you go to the statues, you want to stay there. You want to maybe take some photos. I did my best to get a pose and a photo with each of the statues. Sometimes there might be, you need to also do like a quick lunch stop. You're going to be driving for hours. So that's another challenge. But it's just all in all, it's a good rush, because you're like, oh my God, this was so good. And then you're rushing, I should say, to basically, see the next one. So that's what happened in my case. First Frankie, then Usopp, then heading to Nami and Robin. And by the way, it is important to say that the drive, oh my God, it's so nice. It is beautiful countryside Japan. And this is around, all those 4 statues are around Aso-san. And Aso-san is a mountain called Mount Aso. It is, again, beautiful. So if you can, I would highly recommend maybe stay one night around Mount Aso, because, again, the views are incredible. And, yes, it would be really nice, especially around, I think it's around Usopp's statue. Oh, that was a really nice area. And a part of me thought, if I had more time, I would have stopped here for the night rather than staying in Kumamoto City. Kumamoto City wasn't bad or anything, but I just think it would have made the experience even better. Okay, so then basically I did those 3. Then heading back to Kumamoto City, there was the statue. Then I had 3 more. The first one was Zoro, which was epic. The second one was Sanji, and then the third one was Brook. By the time I did that one, I was already super happy because, I have already half of the crew and the excitement was crazy. And it would have been around close to like 6 p.m. by the time I finished with Brooke. And then I thought, that's already a win. Maybe I need to wake up early the next day, like at 6 a.m., so that I can, finish up and see Jinbe, Luffy, Chopper, and maybe drive to see Robin. So I thought, okay, it's a big win, right? But, I part of me was like, maybe I should go and rest. And of course, I did not do that. I said, let me just go straight and see if I can see Jinbe, because one challenge is that I just told you about Mount Aso. Imagine this, you have like the city center, and then you have to drive, let's say, to the east for about an hour and a half. And then you have to drive to the city and then drive another 45 to 50 minutes to the west so that you can get to see Jinbe. So a part of me was like, if I can see Jinbe on that day, I am going to be saving so much driving time. And unfortunately, by the time I got there, it was a bit dark, so it was amazing, don't get me wrong. The only thing was that even the photos, the video that I took wasn't that nice. It was memorable, but not as memorable as I wanted it to be. So I said, okay, look, that's all good. All I have to do is go back, sleep early, and then basically have a chance. Wake up early, sleep early, of course, and then go ahead and, finish up seeing Jinbe. Then big plus was that the statue for Luffy and for Chopper, those two are very close to each other and close to the main city area. And again, remembering Mount Aso, I said to myself, okay, now I have to just go back to the mountain and see Robin. What was worrying me was the fact that maybe I had to extend the car rental, which I did. And that's, I guess, another thing that I would tell you. Ideally, my experience was a bit of a rush. It was like, again, seriously, it felt like a race against time, like the clock is ticking, you have to hurry up. So probably I would recommend you watching, give yourself at least a bit over 24 hours. Maybe it could be like 2 full days of a car rental would be ideal. But maybe because of a budget or whatever, maybe you've got a tight schedule like I did. Okay, maybe you could have like a day and a half. I think that would have made a big difference, and there is also less pressure. Then I also told myself, okay, look, I'm going to try and basically go somewhere so I can try some horse meat, because Kumamoto is famous for horse meat, and why not? Let's go ahead and try something new. But again, with all the driving, and then because that was new, it was like the first time I was driving like that on my own in Japan. And even though I feel comfortable moving around, it was also tricky, like finding a parking spot and learning how to park the car and all that. Then what ended up happening is that I got a bit late to my hotel because I didn't even check in. That's another thing. I checked in, then parked the car. And then I said, okay, now I have to go and try this delicious horse meat, right? Guess what? When I get to like the train station area, almost all the restaurants are closing. So I said, oh my God, I'm leaving tomorrow. I didn't get to try the special food. However, I was very lucky because one place did not close and they were serving, I should say, Kumamoto ramen. So I said to myself, well, look, let's just try Kumamoto ramen. It's, probably special in the area, which is one cool thing about Japan, that every city has got something different. And I tried it. It was amazing, extremely, extremely good. And then, just try to go to bed so that I could wake up early and then do basically the rest of the statues. The following morning, I left maybe like around 6:20, 6:30. I head over to Jinbe's statue, and one good thing is that Jinbe's statue is right in front of the beach, so you get a beautiful beachside view. So that was a really good way to start the day. I guess another good thing, though, as I'm telling you about my experience, is the fact that there are vending machines everywhere. There are many convenience stores. So it almost feels like you don't need to bring anything. If when or you don't need to be planning too much, in the sense that if you get hungry, you can get a quick snack or you can just buy something to drink, etc. Again, it's just extremely convenient. I guess the only downside is that there is a lot of driving, but it's a really nice drive. I was pleasantly surprised with that. And again, it wasn't like, oh my god, this is so boring. There might be a bit of traffic, but again, really nice drive. I also used that as an opportunity to, call friends, family. So I would be just catching up with them. Again, really good. Then we have probably one of the big moments, getting to chop a statue. I was also really lucky because this statue is close to a zoo. And that's also already a pretty cool detail, because if you think about it, I don't want to give too many One Piece spoilers. So I'll try to keep things very general. Chopper is an animal, right? And if you watch One Piece, you know what else he can do. And then his statue is next to a zoo. That's, again, pretty cool, if you ask me. So I got very lucky in the sense that I went there before the zoo opened, before there was traffic, before it got really busy. So I had my time to, make the video, etc. So that was really nice. Then, of course, we have the final one. We have the one and only, the captain, Luffy's statue. This one, it was so nice because when I got to Luffy's statue, I guess one problem was finding parking, because I think it is, I'm not gonna say downtown area, but it is close to the city center. Finding parking was a bit tricky, and it is actually like right in front what seems to be like an office building. It could be like similar to the town hall, or even like, I don't know, a company building. And the point I'm trying to make is that finding parking was a bit tricky. And well, I parked the car, went for a bit of a walk, and there it was. Before seeing Luffy, or like as soon as I saw Luffy, mini heart attack. And before I started filming and everything, I noticed that there is like a long walk. And if you go through the walk, you can see basically how there are some basically like not flags, but maybe the equivalent of like signs with like the flag or the sign of each character. That was really cool. So as soon as I see Luffy, I go back to the entrance and then I start making the video. Then it was so nice seeing, again, Luffy in person with the cape, all the details. And it was so nice seeing lots of different people. I saw from like young kids to people going into the office building, getting some photos, to seeing tourists like me, and also seeing, people with like big cameras and stuff. So that was really nice in the sense that there were so many different types of fans of One Piece that were there when I was checking this out. And it was also really interesting because it was like on a Wednesday, It wasn't that I went on a Saturday, on a day that lots of people can go. This was a regular day. And there were, a few people when I got there. And again, amazing seeing Luffy in real life. And the crazy part is that, technically speaking, it is just the statue. It's like you just go and take a photo, or you just go and take a video, but it is unreal. It is really, really cool. Then I remember looking at the watch and I said, oh my god, I have to extend my car, because I'm not gonna make it. So I basically called the dealership and I said, look, I want to extend my car. And it was crazy because I ended up paying something like the equivalent to maybe like $30 for 1 extra hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if I had made my booking a day and a half, maybe it would have been that half a day, maybe it was gonna be like close to $50. So a part of me is like, I paid 1 hour when I could have paid a bit more than that, and then I get a full half day. But it is what it is. I mean, I said I have to also see Robin's statue. And again, dropping another interesting fact. Robin's statue, it's not only like located in a random place. I'll tell you like a mini sad spoiler. I thought it would have been cool if like Soros statue is like in front of a kendo school or something like that, you know, related to swords or samurais. It was just next to a park, so nothing too crazy, right? And then, you know, that's okay. But then you have, for example, what I said before with the Chopper, that was pretty cool. And with Robin, we have an interesting thing similar to what happens with Chopper. And it is that Robin's statue is close to a, basically, not an archaeological site, but it's close to like a site where there used to be a university and there was an earthquake. And basically now that has become like a museum because there was a big university in that mountain. And then now that, you know, this earthquake occurred in Kumamoto, basically that university had to close down. I think they relocated the campus. So it was really interesting that they put Robin in a place that has significant history. And now it is a museum. So I hope you can tell. I hope that if you're a One Piece fan, you are... this is like, whoa. I hope you find this interesting because, again, it's like little things that you are not told before going. And when you go, it's like, wow. So that was extremely cool because before seeing Robin's statue, there was a bit of a walk. Also, beautiful views because, again, we are close to Mount Aso area. And amazing views, and then a bit of history because you hear about the incident, what happened. And again, it's I mean, it's obviously not super nice, you know, because it's an earthquake, but still there is that element of history connected to Robin's statue, making it even, you know, more memorable. All in all, I think the statues were really nice. Then I wish, again, if I had booked my car for a bit longer, that would have meant a bit more relaxing time. I could have taken maybe a few more photos or take a bit more time to read everything. There were some QR codes that I didn't scan because I thought I don't have time. Let me just continue. Let me keep going. And that probably would have been cool. I guess another thing that I regret slightly, I'm not going to say that I regret it a lot, is the fact that close to each statue, there is a figure that you can get. And actually, this is one souvenir that I'm super, super happy that I got, which is this one right here. Let me just, for those of you watching, basically, I got this one here. It's Frankie's figure. And I was so lucky because for this figure, you could buy it at the train station next to where Frankie is. Frankie is actually next to a train station. And that's really good for us because they sell this one right there. Then, you know, unfortunately, this is the only one that I've got with me at the moment. Maybe one day I can go and buy other ones. The problem is, though, that say, for example, with like, let's say the one that I told you about Chopper being next to a zoo, or the one about Robin being next to this, you know, like museum, this site. Not all of them. You cannot buy all of these ones like right at the place. I think with Frankie you can, but with other ones maybe you can't. And when I started checking, like some stores would be like a few blocks away. So having a bit of extra time maybe would be good in the sense that you can maybe plan ahead and also get some figures of your favorite characters. That would be unreal. Maybe there are some that have been discontinued. I don't know. I am beyond thankful and happy that I got to have Frankie with me. And it was such a nice trip going to Kumamoto for one night. That's, I guess, very Japanese of me, having like super short business trips. Well, but this was more like a holiday, but you know what I'm trying to say. All in all, do I recommend it? Yes, 100%. Do I regret it? Not necessarily. As you heard me, there might be a few things that I would have done differently. And one thing I haven't mentioned is prices. So say, for example, with the car rental, I think that was probably like the biggest expense. I just told you how I extended it and everything. I think with the car rental insurance and petrol and everything, I would have paid maybe like 150 Australian dollars. Maybe it was a little bit less. I prefer to round it up So I prefer to make it sound a bit more, because maybe if you go and it's less, then it's better. If it is the opposite way, then it's like, oh, Emilio, you told me it was this much and then it's more expensive. So I think I spent about 150 Australian dollars for 1 day with the car. And then of course you have hotel. That one really varies. I stayed in like a very budget friendly place close to the main station. And that's about it. Then it's a matter of, obviously, depending on your trip, maybe you go back to another city like maybe Fukuoka or Hiroshima. I don't know. Maybe you keep going further down to, I don't know, maybe, again, maybe somewhere else around that area. Another quick tip about Japan. I didn't do this, but again, if I had a bit more time, I would have done this. Kumamoto is very close to Oita. And Oita is a prefecture and a city that is well known for onsens. So if you like onsens, I would highly recommend you go to to that city. And what else I could say? All in all, extremely good experience. This is, I mean, maybe it's gonna sound super cheesy or cliche, but it literally was a dream come true. And I'll tell you a little bonus, a mini extra story. So this was already incredible. But what made the whole trip even better was the fact that I managed to get on the One Piece Shinkansen. And, usually, again, nothing new from Japan. There are different types of bullet trains that get themes, right? A very popular one is the Hello Kitty Shinkansen. And I think you have seen, if you have followed me, if you've seen my Instagram, I put it in my stories how there is like Anpan Man and other characters in the local trains even. But this time there was One Piece Shinkansen, and it was really cool because the whole Shinkansen was blue and it had a bunch of characters both on the outside and inside. Basically, you had every little section of the train had like different characters. It was so nice. There were also quotes of some of those famous characters in between wagons, in between different parts of the train. You would also see like stickers of characters, or like you see combinations of, maybe you see Luffy, then you see Zoro, maybe then you see some other ones, some Marines. It was really cool. Then you see some other pirates. As much as I want to say names, I'm just gonna keep it like this. I don't want to give too many spoilers if someone hasn't watched One Piece, which is really hard to do, because there are so many episodes. But again, it was amazing. That bullet train was also a really good example of marketing, because it turns out there are different types of bullet trains. Again, I'm just telling you like some of the nerdy stuff. And it was funny because that Shinkansen was only going from like Fukuoka area, which is like southern Japan, up until Osaka. And then that was it. It was only like, let's say, around the west side of Japan. And interestingly, that Shinkansen they didn't have like, let's say, 10 Shinkansens every day. It was more like 2 services a day, going from Fukuoka area to Osaka, and maybe another 1 or 2 going from Osaka all the way down to Fukuoka. So the interesting bit is the fact that the railway company picked the quote-unquote slowest. I say slowest because maybe, I don't know, just to give you an example, maybe the regular Shinkansen should be like 2 hours. Maybe this one is like 2 hours and a half. So it's like you do stay a bit longer, but it's not that much of a difference. But still, like they basically did all this marketing, this whole Shinkansen One Piece theme with like the slowest Shinkansen, and it was packed, it was full. So it was like a big marketing success. Then probably like the best thing about the Shinkansen was the fact, or the train ride I should say, was the fact that there were certain times that, when normally you are on a train or a bus, let's say just public transport, and you hear a voice saying like, "Ding dong, the next station will be Flinders Street. The doors will open on the right side of the tram." Well, actually, or train, whatever, right? When you get that voice, This is crazy because I was sitting next to my wife. I seriously, that was like my Disneyland moment of the trip, because I was just like in shock seeing all these things. And then it happened, guys. Then Luffy's voice on the train. So it was something like, "Hey guys, this is Luffy. What are you doing here? This is the Shinkansen train," or something along those lines. I mean, it was such a good memory that I cannot come to the podcast and tell you word by word what it said, but it was extremely cool. And another good example of something super cool that happened, I heard Luffy's voice twice doing that. When Luffy would tell you like, "Hey, the next stop is coming up. Be careful, grab all your things." And then it was funny because there was even like a joke, because Luffy was saying, "Hey Zoro, it's not that way. Come this way, da da da." And again, if you just listen to that and you know what I'm trying to say, amazing, you're a One Piece fan. If you don't, watch the show and you will get that mini joke. So even in those announcements, they had the voices of Luffy, Zoro, and basically the way they talked. It was crazy because, you know, a part of me was like, "Oh, okay, cool. They have used Luffy's voice actor." But when you are there on the train, it feels like, "Oh my god, Luffy's talking to me." So that was, again, a good moment to like feel like a child. And as you can see, I'm back in Australia, so very lucky that I had the chance to make this trip again to Japan, that I had the chance to, you know, go and see all these statues, that I have this little souvenir with me. And now that we are back, I will tell you, I have some interviews lined up. These few months have been good busy in different senses. This is now gonna be like the last part of the episode with a mini update, just telling you about life. Basically, with my studies, there's been a lot of study, both personal study as well as university studies. On top of that, as you know, I became a certified Nati translator, and it's been a good problem because now, you know, big thank you for your support, because now people are contacting me. "Teacher, I need a translation." And then I have been doing some translation work as well. Also doing my classes. Some of you asked me, or people asked me, "Emilio, are you still teaching?" And the answer is yes, I'm still teaching. Actually, if you're listening or watching to this video or this podcast episode, I should say, then my July courses are coming up in the next 2 weeks. So there are limited spots available. I'm gonna make them, I like to make the groups small because the idea is that we practice in a small environment, that we get a lot of practice, that we get together like this, well, but on Zoom, and basically do lots of practice, both in class and outside of class. If that sounds, if that sounds exciting, because you need to do your IELTS, you need to do your PTE. We are close to the end of the financial year, and for whatever reason you're planning to do your test at the end of July, August, or maybe let's say in the rest of 2025, in the second half of the year, then I would highly recommend you get in touch. Contact me even if it is in social media. You can message me on Instagram, you can drop me a comment here on YouTube, you can send me an email. I will leave all my details in the description, so feel free to get in touch if you want to study for IELTS, if you want to study for PTE, and of course if you need a document, also get in touch. And with that, I'll have to say bye for now. But this was an amazing episode. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you enjoyed all the clips, the story. If you've got any questions from the trip, do let me know. Maybe there are a few things that maybe you want to know a bit more about, and I would love to share them with you. And I have already told you to leave it in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you leave a review. If you have done all that, thank you so much. And the last but not least, thank you for being here, because again, I have said it a few times and I won't get tired of saying this. Maybe I was part of your day because you went for a walk, maybe you were driving, maybe you are commuting to work, maybe you're cleaning now with this on YouTube, maybe you're just listening to me on the background, or maybe you're just watching the whole thing. I mean, regardless of how you are interacting with this content, I am so excited, happy, and I really appreciate that I'm here with you. So thank you so much for joining. This was episode 119. Stay tuned, more episodes to come. Sending you a big hug from Melbourne. Miss me, don't miss me too much because you'll probably see me in 1 or 2 weeks. Take care and bye for now. See ya.